call sign Bad Dog. This is Lieutenant Koehr, call sign Big Country. We both fly the F-18 Foxtrot, which is the model you have in front of us. It's the Foxtrot because there are two seats. So the pilot sits in the front seat, and the weapon systems officer sits in the back seat. We are both weapon systems officers, so we both sit in the back. The cool thing about the back is when you navigate, we talk on the radio via our foot pedals. We can just step on the foot pedals and talk on the radio. And we set up any weapons that the jet has so that it's ready to go for the pilot. So we work as a team. There is also an Echo model. The Echo just has one seat, so just one pilot that does everything. We don't have an Echo with us today. This jet is from China Lake. Does anyone know where China Lake is? No? Cool.
Is it in China? California.
China? Not China. It's in the Desert Valley area, so it's south of here. We flew up, it only took us about an hour and a half and pick out targets that we want to drop our weapons on. Other than that, we use it in flight to look at other aircraft and gain information that we need.
It's this pod right here that is attached to the side of the jet just above the wing.
Underneath the jet, that big tank right there, it's actually not a weapon, that's our centerline fuel tank. So we fill that up with fuel before we take off, and then it allows us to fly wherever we want. This jet in particular, we do not take on aircraft carriers. It's just stationed in China Lake, but it can go on aircraft carriers. So other squadrons in the Navy do take it on aircraft carriers.
Sorry, the question was how many hours will it last if we're totally full of fuel? And that depends, which isn't a great answer. Depends on how fast we want to go. So normally, when we're flying, we can stay airborne for about an hour and a half. But we can stay airborne a lot longer if we set our max endurance airspeed, which will limit our burn of fuel. If we want to go really fast, it'll last much shorter because it burns a lot more fuel. This aircraft has afterburners, which means after the engine explodes out the back, it squirts more fuel into that exhaust and gives us a lot more thrust, so we can fly faster than the speed of sound. We just can't do it for super long periods of time because we don't have unlimited fuel. Another interesting thing about this aircraft is if we need more gas, over there on the right side of the nose, there is a refueling probe that will pop out. And then we go find a giant plane full of gas, and they stick a basket out the back. We plug that probe into the basket, and they will feed us gas, and we can refill airborne. So in theory, we could stay airborne as long as we wanted, as long as there were more people to come and give us gas. What's up?
What kind of weapons do you carry on a plane like this?
On a plane like this, because it's a fighter and attack aircraft, so it'll carry air-to-air weapons for shooting down enemy aircraft. We have radar-guided weapons and heat-seeking weapons that we normally carry on the end of the wings. That'll lock onto a heat signature, and they'll guide toward that. We also carry all sorts of air-to-ground weapons. So we have what we'd call general purpose bombs, which once we drop, they just fall with gravity. So there's certain profiles we fall to determine where that bomb's going to hit. We can also carry GPS guided weapons. You just put in coordinates and it will fly to that point where we want it to. And then we also have laser guided weapons. Using the pod on the side, it has a laser in it. And we'll drop these weapons and they'll look for the laser energy bouncing off the ground, and then they'll just go wherever that laser energy is. So we have a large complement of both air-to-air and air-to-ground.
You can also shoot the gun from this jet, which is pretty cool.
We also have a 20mm cannon in the nose of this jet, and I don't know if you guys can see up here, but that's where the bullets will come out. So we can both shoot aircraft in the air if we are dogfighting, or we'll dive toward the ground and shoot targets on the ground.
How many hours does it take for a person to become what you guys
1 2 years. So we both have a 4-year college degree. From there, you have to go to flight school. For pilots, it takes roughly 3 years to finish flight school. For backseaters, the weapon systems officer is about 2.5 years. And then after that, you'll start getting into this exact model, the F-18, and then do more years to add up experience. So we both have about 5 years in the F-18.
Okay.
So,
And you kind of become a specialist in your plane, right?
yes, yeah. Once you get selected for an aircraft, yes, you'll become a specialist in that, and in general, you'll stay in that aircraft. There are specific cases where if they introduce a new plane and they're looking for people to fly it, you can transfer to that one and train on that aircraft.
Love it. You guys have any other questions? What did he have?
To explain the G limiter,
Oh. Sounds like a big
there is a G limiter on this aircraft. We can pull up to 7.5 Gs. That's 7.5 times the force of gravity. So right now we're at 1 G. You got 1 times the force of gravity, which is 9.81 meters per second. But we can pull up to 7.5 times the force of gravity, which is very taxing on your body. It's exhausting.
Sounds exhausting.
I wear glasses, so if I have my glasses on, or in this case I have my contacts in, they will let me sit in the back seat as the weapon systems officer, and I'll control weapon systems and navigation and stuff. So there are different measurements. They measure from the seat up to the top of your head, from your back out to the end of your knee. And I don't know what all those are, but they do a bunch of different measurements to make sure, in the case that something goes really wrong with the jet and you have to eject, you pull a handle, there's a rocket on the bottom of the seat that shoots you out. They want to make sure that you're not going to be injured in that way.
The taller you are,
Possibly, I think
It's more about like a ratio.
Yeah, it's more of if you have. I have an uncle who flew when he was 6 months, but he just had the right ratio so that they didn't think he was going to be injured.